All right, so I am still working on the airline radio, but in the meantime, a customer of mine has gotten me into yet another restoration project for him. I've previously done two radios for him, a Packard Bell that came out actually pretty good. It was pretty tuned up. I've got some video of that stored away somewhere I need to upload. And I also did a Telefunken console with him, one of those super fancy combination sets. It has a tape recorder and a LP player built into the cabinet with a microphone and all that good stuff. And those both came out great, and he was really happy with them. And so he turned my attention to an even larger unit that he's been dying to get running, and I have never touched one before. And part of that is under this cloth right here, so wow, it's a blue box. What the hell's up with that? Well, this is but one of many pieces. If I can flip this up, we can see there. This is a Seeburg solid-state control center. Yeah, wow, what is it? Well, this is the main control unit out of a 1966, I want to say, Seeburg Selectomatic jukebox. It's a 45 machine. I think it can hold a 20, 30, 45s in it. Oh, no, wait, no, it goes all the way down to the end of the alphabet, so at least 26. But this is the brains of the operation, and actually, from what I can tell, provides a good amount of the power supply, actually, to the machine, with the exception of the audio amplifier. That's a whole separate rig. The jukebox actually has these modules are actually, if you've never seen one, they actually slide into it, kind of like I don't know, a rack mount server, except they're vertical. So there's a latch at the front, and each one of these has a great label on it and service information, and they slot in there, and then you have a series of plastic headers that couple each of the units together. So in this case, the solid state control center, let me flip the camera up here, connects to the auto speed controller. So this operates basically the platter on the drive head. So the unit that actually scans back and forth to select the record. You need to make sure that it is always running at the same speed, otherwise the music will get distorted. So you have a speed control box to the left of this one in the actual jukebox that hooks in here. This guy right here, the stepper control unit, this particular jukebox does not have that. From what I can tell, it's probably used in conjunction with the selector units you would have at, say, inside of a oh god, what's the word? Instead of a diner, you'd have, each table would have a box on that you could put dimes or nickels into, and basically it's a remote selector for the jukebox. Well, if you have those, the stepper unit is effectively what goes in between those wall-mounted units and the actual control, because the jukebox itself, of course, has a coin selector, which is actually what the pricing plug right here is for. That connects directly to the electromechanical unit that senses how many coins you've inserted, what the total dollar value is, and then determines how many plays you get. This particular machine accepts nickels, dimes, and quarters, and I forget what the maximum you can actually put into it. You also have these two mech connections. These are the ones that actually go to the drive unit that scans back and forth, the playhead and all that. And then you have an additional jumper over here for the service switch. So if you have the front of the machine flipped open and you want to do a test of it, there's actually a small box on the inside right that allows you to manually run the machine, so you can flip a switch and insert credits, and then test to make sure that it's actually scanning, selecting, and playing correctly. And then you can flip it back to normal operation, and it connects the pricing unit back in circuit. There's also this connection down here that says Tormat. It's an RCA connector, and I have no clue what that's for. My only guess is that I have heard that some of these jukeboxes actually use basically a core memory system of determining whether or not a record is in place when you hit that selection. basically a little loop of wire that becomes magnetized and sticks out, and as the unit scans back and forth, it looks for whether or not one of those is energized when you select it, that sort of thing. I don't fully understand it. No idea what that really does. That's just my best guess. And then at the end of the unit, they have a bunch of test points for voltages and sources and other stuff that I don't fully understand at the moment. But the important thing is right now that we need to get this thing fully functional, and so I figured the control unit was a good place to start, because it is, 1966, 2019. It's running on, 53 years now? My math ain't that great. And so naturally all the capacitors and the electrolytics are going to be deader than doornails. Interestingly, all the electrolytics in this thing were made in Germany. By Siemens, no less. So probably good quality parts at the time. Not so much anymore. Now, when I tried firing this unit up, it did nothing. I got what sounded like a cooling fan running, but none of the selector switches operated. The head wouldn't scan. Putting coins into the coin mech didn't operate the pricing unit. Nothing happened. Absolutely nothing. And when I pulled the control unit out, the first thing I noticed was there are a number of fuses in this thing. There are actually 3 glass fuses, 1 replaceable and 2 not. And this little guy down here is a 15 amp, and it is blown. If that would even... Oh, you just have to take my word for it. It's fried. So, a 15 amp, 32 volt fuse that looks to be connected to a number of these plugs. That's a pretty big indicator that stuff ain't gonna work. So I feel a little better knowing that it's probably just a result of this being blown. However, that does mean I need to be careful, because if you blow a 15 amp fuse in a system that is mostly electromechanical, the first thing that comes to mind is bad relay coil, and I really don't want to have to deal with that. So my hope is, I'll go ahead and I've already got the parts on order to recap all of this. I went ahead and I tested to make sure that these large resistors here are still within tolerance. They are both dead on what they should be. You can actually see there's some heat scorching behind them. They are fairly large, so they're going to have a fairly good heat output. I also went through and I started checking all of these semiconductors. So they advertise this as their solid state system because it's, oh look, that's right, it has 1 transistor. The control unit has all these relays in it for operating all the main functions, but there is importantly 1 transistor in here. But all the rectification takes place with diodes. So you have these 4 guys here making a bridge rectifier. You have these 2 here. We have another pair down here. And I went through all of them with my multimeter to check for continuity, and they all check in one direction only, which is fantastic. I was quite happy to see that, because sometimes finding a direct replacement for some of these parts they don't cross over perfectly. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. But yeah, there's a lot less going on in here than I actually expected. They call it the control unit, but to be honest, it would have been more appropriate to call it the power supply, because really that's what it's doing. It's feeding signals and providing power to most all of it, especially the drive motor. And I'm guessing that's probably what this 15 amp fuse here is for. More than likely, it's for powering the actual drive motor in the head unit. So yeah, I'm gonna have to wait a few days before my order from Mouser comes in, but then I'll be able to go through to replace all the parts in this, check to make sure we're getting the voltages that are advertised on the edge there, and I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna start checking the smaller 1/4 and 1/2 watt resistors that are in this thing to make sure they're still up to snuff, and if I have to, I can replace them. I've got plenty of replacement parts in 1/2 and 1 watt actually. So this is just a little introduction to this hopefully successful project. I'd really like to get this thing playing. I've never done a jukebox before, and I love working with electromechanical stuff, as complicated as it tends to be sometimes. But this I think is going to be a lot of fun. Until next time.